my god, are you
while
so tired?
taking.
Yeah, let's.
I was
Alright,
groggy for several hours.
oh my god. Okay, give me. I'm just gonna change a couple things, and I gotta move some ferrets to a different location. And what was I gonna do? Oh yeah,
A couple of ferrets. That sounds like you have more
There.
than Mac and the other little guy.
I have 3.
Oh, you have 3. You have 3? Wait, why do I want to know
Yeah.
about the 2? Oh my god.
You don't know about Budho?
Butthole.
That's
He's a jerk.
what? No,
He's a
you're shitting me.
buddy. No, buddy. He's an asshole.
Yeah. We've nicknamed him Budhole.
Shame. Oh my god.
No, he's very clever. He's like super amazing, but it makes him an asshole. He's just kind of like
It's always a
the
clever
cat
one.
eye. Yeah.
Hey, Katie, welcome to
Okay,
the
I'll
stream.
be right back.
Okay.
Alrighty.
That's so funny. Oh,
Yeah, so she
God.
has Mac. She has Mac, which is everybody calls him Maggie, sweetest bestest boy.
Yes.
And then there's
That's Mac, yeah.
Fisher, which I started calling Parrot because he looks very pear-shaped when she holds him up. And he's the chunkiest
I thought you said
of them
parrot
all.
at first. I'm like, what?
No, Parrot.
Yes, perish. Yeah, I thought they parrot. I was like, what? Okay. He looks perish. Shame. He's just got a chunky. He's got a lot of the junk. Let's put it that way. We're talking
Yeah, he's
about,
just chunky.
For the person that's just joined us, we're talking about KP's ferrets. All 3 of them. I've just discovered today that there's 3 of them. My mind has been blown.
I really thought you knew all this time.
No, I thought there were 2, and now I'm like,
No, there's 3.
let me just inform everyone else that our stream is starting. I don't know why on my own channel, it doesn't tell everyone that I'm streaming until like afterwards. On my own flippin' Discord.
The bot does take a little while to pick up that you are streaming to change your status.
Unbelievable.
It might be because
Yeah.
Discord.
Yeah, Discord. We will be starting soon, folks. We're just waiting for KP to make a few adjustments on their side. Hey, Reiha. Hey, Mary. Hey, ENL. I'm going to say ENL. I just see letters. Wave at everyone. We have a very exciting show. It's going to be a little bit different today. Something that we actually wanted to do last week. But just to let everyone know who's joining us so far. 22 viewers. That first, we will get the questions out the way that some of you have left in. So I'm going to be posting on there, and you can do it either on KP's channel or my channel. You can follow us on Discord, and you can actually go there and post questions that you might want for next week's show or the following show. So you don't necessarily always have to wait here, especially if you're not going to be watching today and next week you're not going to be available. Then at least your question can be asked and you can watch it later. So things that we do to help. To make sure that we engage with all of you. Let's just copy.
Yeah, there is also a tag for Twitch for an AMA, surprisingly enough.
Oh, there is?
Yeah, it's kind of
For
interesting.
Twitch. That's awesome. So yeah, I'm trying.
I'm back, by the way.
Oh, hello. Yep. Hello. So yeah, so I've in the link below, obviously you can see KP's Twitch channel there as well, because then obviously this is an hour show, and then after an hour, if you want to go watch her play or carry on asking questions, please continue to do the thing there. But are we ready to begin? Are you streaming on your side, KP? Are we streaming?
I'm ready to go.
Okay, so we're already up and running on my side. But welcome everyone to the Creature Feature with KP, the hour show where you get to ask everything and about animals. But today we have a very special show. We're going to be asking questions about the day in the life of a caretaker. So in other words, or I like to say caregiver, because you give so much, KP. All of you did so much to the animals. So today we're going to be asking KP questions about her role, her position, and what she does. So if I can, but first, actually, before we start, we have Reiha with us as always. Some of you may know her as
Morning.
Tenchi. You had 2 questions from people or from someone that's not going to be here. So maybe we get those questions out the way and then we can move on with the show.
Yeah, so this person asked this last week and they were not able to make it for this morning's AMA. There are 2 questions. The first one is, what are the biggest misconceptions about your job? What your friends think you do, what society thinks you do, and what you really do.
That's a good question.
Yeah. That sort of thing. Sorry, somebody's asking what my shirt says. I'm just going to flash it really quick. It just says, I just want to drink wine, save the animals, and take naps. So, just thought I'd throw that out there. I mean, I think that there's a few things to that. So like what my friends and family think that I do, I think is a lot of like just like constant animal snuggling sessions, I think.
That's just play and all fun.
Yeah, and I you know, and I wish that was like a huge part of the job, just like snuggling. But it's that's not really it. So I think that my friends and family like or like my dad used to always ask like if I did any shows today, and I was like, Dad, that's literally like, yeah, I did. You know, like yeah, I did a couple. Like, you know, it's just part of the job. So, I mean, I think that they think that it's all kind of like fun and games and stuff. What society thinks I do, I think can be kind of two-sided if you're talking about, I think can be kind of, you know, the supportive end of society or the not so supportive end of society, you know. I think like to go like to the dark side a little bit, I think some people think that I just make the animals do things all day in order to give them their food. Yeah, it just tricks all the time, which of course, as you know, is like 0% of the job. And like, what was the other part of it? Like, what I think I do is like, what I feel like I do is clean things constantly and like constantly be picking like scales off of my face and, you know, clams off of my, you know, off of my pants and stuff like that. So, yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot that, kind of just, I mean, it's a weird thing. Like a lot of people wouldn't know. It's not anybody's fault, but like a lot of people just don't know what the job is like. And there's a lot of other things involved too that I'm sure we'll get into. But I guess those would probably be the big misconceptions, that I just hang out with cute fuzzy animals all day. And like also that it's always sunny, you know, like it's almost always in raining Vancouver. Here. Like I am cold and wet, like, you know, so there's that part of the job too. Like I am almost never warm at work, or never the proper temperature. It's like either way too hot or way too cold.
Which I would expect in the northern parts of the world, it like almost be always cold. But yeah, as you say, it's like we either always seeing it raining or total opposites.
Yep.
Ray, you had the second question from your.
Yeah, the second question. Well, we discussed it last night, but I'm just gonna ask it anyways. And how is it determined of who will work with which animal?
Yeah, so this is an interesting question. Usually, the way that it works is we are sort of separated into groups based on species, usually. So, like for instance, when I very first started at the Vancouver Aquarium, I was assigned to the beluga whale and sea otter team. So that wasn't really my choice, although it would have been, even if if it was. But basically, it's kind of like taking your skill set and where you're needed for that time. And in my time there, I've been moved around to many areas. I've probably been moved around more than anybody else. And it's sometimes that can be hard. Because you're moving away. You still get to see, these animals and stuff like that, but you're moving away from an area that you're very comfortable with. But really the idea behind that is that when I move to a new area, I then gain new skills and then I become more valuable. And that's kind of the idea behind that. So, I was moved to the Walrus team and I was moved to the Dolphin team. And so I've had the privilege of working with a lot of animals, but usually management makes those decisions. And while they might take into account your, your preference or whatever like that, it really doesn't have anything to do with what you want to do usually, because it's all a matter of where the skills are needed in that particular area. Right now, we're just kind of working with everything. We don't have enough staff to be in different areas dedicated. So. Okay. So we just specialize in everything, really, or generalize in everything, I guess, as it were. So that's kind of where we're at right now. But as far as like if you're looking at individual animals, like when I walk up to a sea otter session, we literally just go, hey, what do you want to do? And I'll go like, maybe I'll work on Hardy and having him close and open the doors. It's just kind of like a fun thing that I like to do with him. And so that's kind of just decided in the spur of the moment. But we do try to never be like I only ever take, Mac because he's the cutest, because we do want the animals everybody's working on something and we do want the animals to be, used to different things.
I just wanted to just very quickly say, did you say that you teach Hardy about doors?
Yeah, have you guys seen that? Sometimes I do training sessions that I'm asking him to open and close doors. So that might seem silly, but the purpose behind that originally was actually because I wanted he started kind of doing that. To begin with, he started kind of doing that on his own. Oh wow! And I was like, and one of the things that you can do, and people were getting kind of irritated by it. I thought it was kind of cute, but he hasn't figured out the latches, so it's not like super dangerous. But it's just kind of like one of those things when you walk into the habitat, he leaves and slams the door on you, and you're like, wait, what the? But so I was one of the training principles. That you can use is like basically like what if I have that behavior, like what if Hardy knows that as a behavior, so I ask him to close the door, he closes the door. This can actually decrease the likelihood that he will do it outside of a training session, so outside of when you ask
won't
him.
Do it on his fruition.
Yeah, that's the principle behind it. To be honest, it's just like an on paper principle that I've like heard stories about, but I've never actually seen this type of training work. But I thought, what the heck?
Well,
we'll just try. We'll just put it on a signal and see what happens. And
as we've seen with Kunik, it's pretty much they're going to learn how to open the doors by themselves anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
pretty soon they'll have like little grappling hooks and pulleys, and you'll be seeing some crazy stuff out there.
That's actually hilarious. Oh gosh. So I actually wanted to ask you yourself. There's something that if I can actually bring it up here very quickly. You actually had a photo on your Instagram recently about first being introduced to walruses. So my question is, when did this happen? What was your first opinion? And when did you begin to learn to love them? Like, okay, these are the animals for me. I mean, it was a very cute picture.
Yeah. So, I know exactly the picture that you're talking about. So, I was kind of just mentioned, I was moved to that team. It was a decision made because I had a very small amount of nobody really had a lot of walrus experience at our facility, and I had like the teensy tiniest little bit, like I had seen walruses before. It was like basically what the what the criteria was at that point. I had done an internship at a facility that had walruses. So they were like, we want you to be on the walrus team. And I was just like, oh, okay. And this was moving me from like the dolphin team. And I was just like, oh gosh, okay, well, whatever. We can, well, I'm sure we can make that somewhat interesting. It's just like, but it's a daunting thing when they first bring in animals and they're like, you're going to be working for 24 hours this one day because they come in and then we need you to stay and like all this stuff. So it's just like, oh gosh. And we had the trainers from the Aquarium de Quebec there helping us to learn about the animals. And I was kind of telling my husband, like, oh, gosh, and it's just going to be a lot of work and blah, 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 blah. And they apparently need this type of specialized care and yada, yada, yada. It's just so much going on. And then I remember I went out there with them and, like, watched them and was there, the whole day. And I came back home that night, and it was like, has everybody seen Elf? With so the Christmas classic. So I came home that night and I literally like busted down the door and I was like, I'm in love and I don't care who knows it. They just had so much personality, like just straight off the bat, and they're like playing with toys and just so silly. And so it was almost just like love at first sight. Like, there was like a like you go out there like, oh, whatever, walruses is going to be such a pain in the butt.
Yes.
I'm sorry, they can do what with their faces? Like, can I have a hug? And then it's just over from there. So.
Oh, that is actually a hard, because it's also the perception. Everyone thinks that you can just like an animal that specifically look cute, but I'm sure in everyone's mind, walruses are cute too. I mean, I look at them and I see like they've got big eyes and this weird mustache that look like JP Morgan.
Yeah, it's kind of like pugs, right?
Yes.
Like, like everybody loves pugs, but they're like the traditional definition of cute does not apply there for sure.
That's definitely for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Any questions from your side, Reiha?
Yeah, we actually do have some more questions. This next question was, have you ever had to be involved with surgery on an animal? If so, what is that like?
Yeah, so this happened multiple for times. Sure. It doesn't often happen that we have to do surgery on animals, but I have been present for the times that we have done some of those things. One of probably the more, I guess, like, impactful times, I guess, for me was we had a dolphin who sort of had come down with this really acute, like, had just basically stopped eating one day. And you don't waste too much time with stuff like that, something that's completely out of the character of the animal. And so we brought in specialists from all around the world, like literally, like everybody who is anybody in the dolphin care and surgery and anesthesia world was in like this room at the same time. Oh, wow. And this is kind of this part's interesting to me because I don't know how much you guys know about cetaceans, about whales, dolphins, and porpoises, but they're like basically they're conscious breathers, and so essentially what that means is like you and I are just breathing right now. We're not even thinking about it.
Yes, but a
whale. Yeah, a whale, dolphin, or porpoise has to physically make themselves breathe. It's not, it's more like lifting their arm than it is like taking a breath for us. So they have to physically make that happen every single time.
Oh, God.
So that has traditionally made anesthesia with them very, very difficult, because if you anesthetize them, they no longer have, some of those cognitive abilities. So like, if you were anesthetized, you can no longer lift your arm. Well, they can no longer breathe. And intubating them is really difficult because their throats, like their esophaguses, are not necessarily connected to their trachea. Because if you're a water animal, like that makes a lot of sense. Like you don't want your airway connected with your food eating, mechanism when you're sometimes eating underwater.
Yeah.
So anyway, this is like getting kind of long and crazy, but that's the premise behind why it's been really difficult to do anesthesia and to do surgery on dolphins. And so for this particular, this is just a crazy surgery because people don't do it very often. And this was I think it was the first gastrointestinal surgery done on a Pacific white-sided dolphin, or successful at least, in that she did survive the surgery. And that was just really, really crazy. And sometimes for stuff like that, like even though, it's all about the animal and we do want the animal to make it, obviously for something like that, we'll rotate in, like we make sure that everybody has the opportunity to come and see something like that, because it's like groundbreaking. It's amazing. Like to say you were a part of it is something like unbelievable. Unfortunately, because I know everybody's going to ask, she did pass away a couple days later. She had, she basically had like parts of her intestines had started to die. As to why that happened, it's hard to really say. But she there was no recovering from that, unfortunately. So we did lose her, but she is like an invaluable member of the Pacific white-sided dolphin community because of the things that she taught people and the knowledge that's passed on, and sometimes that's hard, but she is, that what we learned from that experience is going to save thousands of members of her species in the long run. So but anyway, so that's kind of like the biggest, most impactful. And then there's like little things too, like, oh, this animal needs their teeth cleaned. I guess that's not really a surgery, but and then you find like a tooth that needs to come out, and that'll happen. And like, so there's some smaller things as well. But yeah, we do try to be there for those types of things, or the snip snips. Yeah. Devil Agent says the snip snips. I didn't actually go to the snip snips. The snip snips are so like, like some of those things are like, so pretty basic for our vet staff, and sometimes they just want a nice room that's like empty and devoid of onlookers. But yeah, we try to go to those types of things because it's a really great learning experience for everybody. So
this is maybe a follow-up question to this, and it's a bit of a deep question, but in relation to the otters. But what happens to the animals when they pass away? Are there remains donated to science, or is it just like the classic give them a nice little funeral or something like that?
No, that's a good question, a heavy question. It goes along with the territory though. So we have there's a dedicated necropsy space. It's not on our facility. It's actually a completely different, I think it's a government run place. They do things for like farm animals and for all kinds of things. And so the animals go there because I think they legally have to. So we don't deal with the remains after that. And then they do the necropsy. They give us like the full report on what happened, and we can learn from that. And they get to learn as well. And a lot of times our vet staff will go and they get to learn by looking at the animals. And then they are I think they're cremated.
Okay.
On that site. So yeah, I mean, they live on in our hearts. We don't, like once an animal passes, I always try to remember, like, because I've been to some necropsies as well, and sometimes it can be a little bit hard, but also, that's not the animal anymore. What they were has lives on in our hearts, and so that's something that we always try to remember. But yeah, the necropsies are a really great scientific tool for the community.
Of course, so. Yes.
Should we talk about something fun?
Yes.
Did you have any questions on your side, JJ?
Okay, yeah. I'll start with this one because it was at the top of the list, but it's a bit of I think to transition to a lighter question, but what does it feel? Wait, where is it? Tessa, I'm trying to find your question here. Because it was oh yes. How do you feel walking, driving home after you've been with Joey? Because I saw in the one reaction video, he screamed.
Oh yeah. I try to, one thing about this job is that it is a very like it can be a very emotionally taxing job. Like I feel like a lot of people when they have and this isn't true for every job, and honestly I've never had a desk job, so correct me if I'm wrong, but it's kind of like you leave work and you kind of just leave it behind and it's time to go home and to do your thing. And that can be a hard thing to do when you work with animals because there is like an undeniable emotional connection there. And so I really though try to like I hop in my car, I crank up the music. It's time to forget about work. It's something that I've had to learn how to do. It's a learned skill, I think, when you work with animals, when you're a caregiver, or probably when you work with humans too, like teachers and things like that. I imagine it's very similar. Yeah, and so I just like for my own mental well-being, like I crank up that music. I like, I'm just like, ooh, what am I gonna have for dinner? What video games are we gonna play? And just try to really have two separate parts of my life and not be. That's why oftentimes people are like, do you watch the live stream of Joey? And I'm like, nah. I watch it if I'm at work. I'll turn it on so that I know what they're doing, and and I'm at work, so I'm in animal zone, and I'm happy to watch them when I'm at work. But I do not watch them typically. And you need to separate
yourself.
Yeah, you kind of have to have two areas of your life. It didn't really bother me with you guys hopefully could see from that video, like we were having fun, like that was a funny. I don't know why he was losing his mind.
He was protesting. He wanted to be in the video. He wasn't in that episode.
I have no idea. Yeah, I don't. So maybe that's on you, JJ. So I don't know. I don't know why he was so crazy, but we had a really good time with it. We thought it was really funny. We're really happy that you guys enjoyed it too. I think it was just so that type of stuff doesn't bother me. I didn't even think about it after we left, after him screaming. But the nice thing is that, like, unlike having kids or things like that, is like after that I was like, all right, well, let's just walk away from this madness, and we'll be back later when he's calmed down a little bit. So
okay, if I can do a follow-up question, well, not a follow-up question, but just to so we can get to the part where you tell us what you do in the day. But what did you actually study to get in this position, on even from the stuff that you had to like do volunteer-wise?
Sure. Yeah. So most marine mammal trainers, which is like my technical title, are have some sort of 4-year like science degree from a university, and usually that's like I have a degree in zoology and a degree in biological sciences, but I actually think for this very particular like marine mammals in particular, having a psychology degree, like a science-based psychology degree, is actually very, very useful, because the techniques that we're using to train the animals, to work with them, are all human psychology based techniques. So I don't have that background, but I know a lot of successful trainers do have that background, and I think they had a little bit of a leg up on me when I first entered the field. And then it is a lot of hands-on experience. So usually you do a lot of unpaid, unfortunately, internships, which are like 3 to 4 months, where you go and actually live in the area and work with the animals and learn a lot on the job, because of course there's not like a baby sea otter raising course in university, because otherwise everybody would take that course, right?
I see people signing up now.
Yeah, exactly. Everybody's Googling it right now. Oh my God, come on. So there's that on the job training. So I was out of university. I was applying for like any and every internship. I actually thought I was going to work with big cats. It's kind of was the dream at the time. And then I applied for this crazy internship that I knew I wasn't going to get all the way in a different country in Canada, working with beluga whales and sea otters. And yet they picked me. There were 4 interns, and I was one of them, and kind of the rest is history. But a lot of times people do volunteer for long periods of time, and don't get as lucky as I did. And I have been back and forth and worked at other places too, but that's kind of like the short of it. And yeah, there's a lot of luck involved too. But I think more than anything, it's just a lot of persistence and dedication. So
To actually really get through with it. Yeah. Reiha, from your side, any questions on popping up on that side?
Yeah, we actually do. We do have a few on our side. This next question is there a part of your day you always look forward to or dread?
oh, good question. I always look forward to lunch.
Your lunch or the
You know,
animal's lunch?
yeah, well, my lunch. But I'll answer it seriously too. But honestly, like we like feed the animals like all day long, and like all morning, and I'm like I'm hungry, and they're eating like good food too, and I'm like a seafood lover, so like honestly, like I'm like gosh, like we feed the otters like 2 times before we even go on like a brief coffee break in the morning. They get fed 3 times before I get lunch. And I'm like, wait a second, like what's going on?
And they having a good meal, and you're probably watching like they're enjoying that too much.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, maybe I'll just microwave one of these clams and see what's up. No, that would be disgusting. But yeah, and so let's see. But in all seriousness, let's see. What do I look forward to the most? I really like when we do enrichment sessions, when we plan out really fun enrichment for the animals, whether or not it succeeds, whether or not the animals actually enjoy it or whatever. I think those are really fun. So I did actually really enjoy shooting that video in that play with the otters, even though.
Yes.
Like I think it was a success. The animals were clearly engaged. I don't know what they were thinking, and I don't know why he was screaming in my face like that. But like Katmai was unzipping pockets, and like I mean, the otters were definitely engaged. So I had a really good time when we did that, and we always have fun like as a group when we do that kind of stuff. So that's always super fun for me. Let's see, what do I always look forward to? I actually really enjoy Fish House in the mornings as well, especially if I'm by myself, believe it or not, because we just like can turn on the music, like crank it, and just like jam out in the Fish House when we're doing all of our food prep.
Is that where you prep the food? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Where we the Fish House, yeah, where we do all of our food prep for the animals, which takes like several hours. I like doing that. Things that I dread fish delivery. So once every 2 weeks, we get a delivery of frozen fish. So the way that it works is our freezer holds about 2 weeks worth of frozen fish, and our refrigerator only holds the next day's worth of fish. So we're like constantly moving fish around, and so every 2 weeks we have to get a big shipment of pallets of herring and capelin and clams and squid, and fish delivery is always like a huge pain in the butt. And we are sometimes we have to we call it hand bombing, where you're literally like grabbing one flat and doing this like 35-40 times. You have to like heft this stuff into the freezer. So that's probably my least favorite. It takes so much time. It's cold in the freezer. My hands are cold. I'm tired. It's usually the morning. I definitely do not like fish delivery.
I can imagine so. Got to ask the questions here. Wait, Ray, if you got one more question, go ahead. I totally forgot the line of what.
Oh yeah, no, I still have a lot more questions coming in. So, okay, so I'll go to the next question. It's how much of your day is spent preparing for being with the animals compared to time spent with the animals?
That's a good question. So unfortunately, it's like a shockingly small amount of time of our day is spent actually spending time with the animals. Like if I had to put it in proportions, I'd say probably about like 25% of our day is spent actually spending time with the animals. as opposed to all the other things that we're having to do throughout the day. And we try to make it as much time as possible, or just because we really like to spend time with them, or we try to make it so that there's something going on for them at like all hours of the day. But yeah, it is, especially because I was saying that, like, we are now working with all the animals. So we have 7 sea otters. We have, oh gosh, I'd have to count, but I think we have 12 sea lions. And, a dolphin, 3 harbor seals, 5 northern fur seals. So like we have to take care of all of those animals. And that's just the basic care of the animals. It doesn't include pool cleans and fish prep and all that stuff. So unfortunately it is, I think sometimes a shockingly small amount of our time is spent with the animals, but that's why it's really nice to have, like, even though 7 sea otters is a lot of sea otters, it's a incredibly socially dynamic place for them. And, 12 sea lions, like something is always happening for those animals, even if we're not around, which is really, really nice.
That must be something, yeah, especially with all the preparation and you get to actually spend a time with them.
Yeah, so we do really like spending time with the animals. And I think that's probably why I look forward to those play sessions, because like, I don't even need to be directly interacting with them, but I get to sit there and I do get to watch. So I do turn on the stream when I am at work, because I do like watching them. It's almost like spending time with them when I get to just watch them and hang out and see them for a little while. I mean, same reason that you guys like it too, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And you're actually there. So how does your day basically start for the caregivers? I know you mentioned the fish house and things like that, but what is basically your first thing you do when you get to work?
Yeah. So we, I usually wake up at like 5:30 in the morning. I gotta be at work at 7 usually. We have a couple different shifts, but that's usually the way that it works.
Yeah.
And then as soon as we get in, we put on all of our rainproof gear and head down to the fish house. And we just take so we've basically, the night before, we've put the frozen fish that will be thawed in the morning. We've put that in the refrigerator. So we take all of that out of the refrigerator, we put it in the sinks, and we start the thawing process. So all the fish is frozen, and there's a reason for that, and it is because it kills everything. So it kills any kind of parasites, it kills any kind of bacteria. So all in all, like that's just far better for the animals that way.
Cook it, obviously, so.
Yeah, and they animals out in the ocean are like just like absolutely chronically infected with parasites and things like that. And our animals live in a really nice little bubble where there's like no disease or anything at the aquarium, so they can't really tolerate that kind of stuff. So, so we start thawing out the food, and then from there, as it starts to thaw, we start to the process of making the diets for every single animal. And I don't know if you saw, I posted in the Discord, and I can probably show it up here too, recently, a picture of what like a single bucket of Joey's food looks like in a single day. And so normally we don't make we don't make the diets like this. He actually gets 5 separate buckets, but just for like the sake of this picture, I just put it all into one bucket. But so for each otter, for 7 otters, we're making 5 buckets, like for every single session for those animals. And that's just the otters, right? So every other animal gets 3 sessions usually in a day. And it's all individual diets. So it's, every single, fish is weighed out and counted. And so that can be a little bit time consuming and a little bit tedious. I've grown to like really like it. But it's maybe not the first thing. So that's kind of how we start out. The animals also get vitamins in the morning, usually because you are freezing the fish. there is, and thawing it, there is a little bit of you are losing some nutrients in that process. So we give them all a multivitamin, just like you should take a multivitamin every morning, because human food kind of does a lot of the same thing. We give them multivitamins, and and then we get started feeding everybody.
Which I think is something that we should consider for most animals, because they don't get that same nutrients that they do in the wild.
Yeah, and we do our best. Like they get whole food and stuff like that, but that's kind of the price you pay for freezing it and eliminating those parasites and things like that. We are losing a little bit of nutrients, but we can fix that because it's like specifically designed for the marine mammals vitamins.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, next question from Reiha's side.
Next question on our side is somebody wants to know if the waterproof pants you wear are comfortable.
Are comfortable. They're not bad. I'm basically wearing a trash bag. If I'm being honest with you. So they're not horrible, but it's funny too, because waterproof is like one of these terms that we've had to really like try to get across to like upper management and stuff like that, because they kept giving us like these jackets that are water resistant and stuff like that, and we would be wet within 30 minutes in Vancouver weather. I'm like, you don't understand. Like, we have to stand outside for 3 hours. Yes. I need something that is waterproof to 3 hours, like, which is not easy to find. So this latest stuff that we have is pretty good. Although as it gets older, like I need to replace all my stuff, because it's now like a year or two old, and it's started to like after about 4 hours, I'm like, I'm damp. It is moist in here. So yeah, I mean, they're fine. It literally is just like wearing like stretchy. We're getting a nice close up right now. Here, I'll just move you guys over of what the pants look like. So they're fine. They're like elastic around the middle. Like, it's whatever. It literally is like wearing like a trash bag. Like, but we do usually like we're wearing several layers underneath this, of course. And so like at lunchtime, we like always take off our pants to like dry off and everything like that. So I mean, I wouldn't wear them outside of work, if that's the question. Like,
I think
they're fine. They're Helly Hansen. So you could buy them. Yeah, exactly. We're so fashionable. I mean, that's a funny thing too, and I guess this goes back to one of the very first questions, which is like, what does everybody else like? What are the impressions of people? Like, a lot of people think it's a really like glamorous job, like a really, like the first thing that everybody says is, "Oh my gosh, I wish I had your job." And I'm like, I wear trash bags for pants. Like, it's really, and I'm just like always constantly covered in scales. So yeah. It's definitely cold and wet, and we do our best, but we're not making any fashion statements or anything.
It's actually a funny question. Oh, shame, I can see Katma getting. Oh, there she goes. She's standing. That's what we're talking about. Katma is always up against the wall. What did you do, Katma? What did you do?
And this is Christy, who's actually she's not a trainer anymore, but she is our animal registrar. But she's like been around since like she raised Katma. So it's kind of cool to see her out there. I'm not really sure what transpired, or if she was just like, hey, I'd like to go see the animals, but that's why she's in jeans, and she has a normal 9-to-5 job. So
okay, well, there we go. Because I think someone just was about to ask, like, why is she wearing different clothing after that conversation?
Yeah, this is Christy. So she doesn't actually. She has an immense amount of experience with the sea otters. But she doesn't really work with them that much anymore. But it looks like she just wanted to come out and see Katma, because we do, even when you move away, and Christy's lucky enough that she still works in the same facility, just doing something different. But they miss the animals for sure. So
the little spin. Yeah, I think there's actually a lot of videos with her and that on the Vinaqua YouTube channel.
Yeah.
It's quite a bit. I just love that little.
And she came back to help with Joey, because nobody has as much experience as Christy does raising baby sea otters. So she came back to help out a little bit with that as well.
Yeah, even whenever you said I'd totally be sneaking away.
Yeah.
I'd totally be going.
So actually, as we're watching this transpire right now on stream, there was a question that pretty much is related. Is everyone that we see on camera a trainer or a caregiver for the animals?
Usually, I mean, this is just kind of like a special instance. Everybody that goes inside the habitat with the animals is in some way employed at the Vancouver Aquarium, and that's just like for a liability standpoint. You may have also seen, like, sometimes I'll bring, if we're like short staffed in the morning and I have like nobody else, I'll bring our fish house volunteers to go feed the otters from the glass in the morning. But usually, and especially anybody in red. So we all wear Vancouver Aquarium red usually, unless it's raining, and then our trash bags are on. But those people are animal caregivers, and we don't have people come into the habitats that are not employees, or, you know, sometimes I guess there's special sort of instances if we might have like somebody from a different facility and something like that. But it's just a liability issue because they can be dangerous, and you need to know how we do things. You need to know like how the animals operate, and all of those things in order to step in with the animals. So yeah.
Okay.
Pretty much.
Let me see here. Okay, come on, folks. Okay, well, this is a little bit different from the topic, but what kind of enrichments do penguins get? We need to do a show just on penguins, by the way. And I know
we should.
Wrong. I'm South African.
We should. I have a funny video of us weighing the penguins that I've been trying to figure out the proper avenues to post. But an enrichment session with the penguins. So our penguins tend to be pretty fearful of a lot of things, so we try not to like be too crazy with them. But we will give them like put little ice chips on the hollow. I've given them like giant blocks of Jello. And the way that, I guess the thing is, like, you have to understand how different each animal is, because the way that otters interact with objects is going to be different than the way that penguins interact with objects. Just because of the way they are, like, physiologically. So a penguin, like, literally walking up and looking at something, I consider that like a highly successful enrichment session. Which might seem silly, but like, penguins aren't going to grab things with their flippers. They're not going to, you know, so you have to kind of like temper your expectations depending on each individual animal. So yeah, we'll do some stuff like that. They do have toys. They have special toys that only the penguins are allowed to have. Okay. There is Barma here talk about Hope the office penguin. So we do have the ability, because they are like such easy to handle animals, we can bring them to different areas. So sometimes we walk our penguins, all of them, throughout the entire aquarium because we're closed now. We have the ability to go around to different areas, or we have Hope the office penguin, who is just like really seems to enjoy interactions with humans, and we'll bring her to the office for like most of the day, and she just hangs out with us because it's something that she really seems to enjoy. So changing up their environment in that way is something that we really like to do with the penguins. And like I said, they do have some specialized toys. Like we have little mechanical mice that move, things that we could never give to like a sea otter.
Yes.
We do laser pointers with them sometimes too, because they do like to catch things. Sometimes they'll chase insects and stuff, and so we'll do like a laser pointer where they're like running around and trying to get it, and that can be kind of fun. So yeah, those are some of the things that we do with our penguins.
Because it seems to be in most of the aquariums I've seen who do social media, and that there's always a penguin walking around giving a tour.
Yeah. I mean, it's just because it's so easy to do. Like they just, you can just scoop them up, as much as I would love to take the otters around, like first of all, they would dismantle everything. There's no way you can keep a leash on a sea otter. If I go to scoop one up, it's just gonna, like take off my hand. So it's just, it's just a lot more challenging with animals like that. Whereas with the penguins is very, very easy. And they're kennel trained too. So we always bring a kennel with them. And whenever they get like a little bit nervous, they just run back into the kennel. So it becomes very easy that way.
I was about to say, I think it's just because they're from Cape Town, especially Hope.
It could be. They're so laid back and so awesome. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, we can move on. Ray, got questions on your side?
Yes. So the next question on this list was it difficult to handle 3 baby otters with Knick-Knack and Rialto all at once, especially with their meeping?
Yeah, I don't it wasn't all exactly at the same time. And they were all a little bit older. So the time that they all came to us, I believe they were all Rialto was a little bit younger, but Mac and Kunik, I think, were like just under a year old. So it really wasn't like with Joey, where it was 24/7. Like they had already been on their own and had kind of figured stuff out. Mac and Kunik had always had each other. So that was really nice. And then, introducing Rialto was pretty easy after that. So I don't remember it being that. Maybe I'm just blocking it out, but I don't remember it really being like too difficult of a time. Because they were so much older at the time. So it very much depends on on their age. And in general, the younger they are, the more difficult they are to take care of. And the more worried you are about them. If a sea otter comes to us at 9 months old, we pretty much know that animal is totally fine. We don't have to worry too much about it. But there definitely is some small meeping. I have it on my list of things to do this week is to capture some of Mac's small noises that he makes when he's eating for you guys to hear, because everybody's always like, the adults don't make any noise. Well, it usually not, but there are some like tiny little noises that some of them will make sometimes, and so I'm gonna try to get it on camera, but it's so hard because it's so soft. But yeah,
but it definitely happens, because I've seen sometimes here and there on stream, like we'll use Taz example because she's primary, so she'll like touch a flipper and you'll see the other otter open his mouth, and you don't know if it's like it going, hey.
Sometimes they do. I mean, Kunik is one animal that, like, if she's got a problem, like, she will let you know about it too. But they have to be really angry about something. Like, if you try to take an ice treat away from Kunik, you're gonna hear about it, kind of a thing. But yeah. So there's it definitely is. It definitely is possible. They can physically make noises. They just choose not to, as a general rule.
There's some people or humans like that would learn from that, and I'm just being horrible. That could really take it as an option. Just on this side, are there any animals? Let me see here. Sorry, the question just jumped off my screen. Awesome. Are there any particular animals you've worked with where the individuals don't have a distinguishing personality in some fashion or form?
No, all animals have personalities. Some animals can be kind of like others, but like in my experience, especially I think this pertains to the sea otters as well, because some of them are, as we know, a little bit difficult to tell apart just by looking at them. I think the easiest way to tell them apart is by their personalities. Because even if I were to detail for you, you close your eyes and I'm telling you, okay, in this pool there is one animal that is asleep in a bucket. There is there are 2 other animals that are sucking their thumbs or sucking their paws.
Yes.
Who's in there now, yes. Right? I've just described it for you. So it's kind of I feel like their personalities are very much different. Yeah, my chat's blowing up. It's Koenig, Mac, and Joey. Yes.
Yes, like so we all know.
Yeah, we got it. I should have started a poll. No. So yeah. That's their personalities. Especially, I find this with the sea lions, who I struggled. Guys, I'm telling you, for years to tell the sea lions apart. They all look like nearly identical to me, but I could usually tell them apart by their personalities, and now that's very easy for me, or their mannerisms, or what they're doing. So yeah, I have never met an animal that doesn't have a very distinct personality.
I think I mean, we've all been there. We know Mac is the backwards diver. We've all distinguished the personalities. Without those personalities, the shows like TAZZTALK and that wouldn't exist really. If they weren't all wildly different.
Well, yeah, and then I mean, each individual animal. As I always tell people, because they'll ask, "Oh, is it easier to train an otter than it is to train a dog than it is to train, a dolphin or whatever?" And it's, I do not differentiate like with the species. Like, yes, there are some like differences that you would change up because of what the species is, but in general, it's more based on their personalities. Like, like I know working with Katmai that she's, she can be challenged maybe a little bit more than I would challenge Mac with some of those like cognitive heavy behaviors. So yeah, it's mostly just like a personality based kind of thing, I find, and they all have personalities, absolutely.
Okay. Let's just we give Ray a chance. I see some of the chat saying you aren't answering all our questions. We're taking turns here. We're going between Ray, who's looking on Discord and that, and our YouTube. So we're trying to cover as many questions as we can.
We're also trying to stick on topic, but if you do have like other questions that weren't necessarily on topic, like feel free to like I said, like JJ said, I'll be going on for a little bit longer than the hour, and also you can always put them in the Discord. We can talk about them at another point in time. And sometimes I'm sure you guys aren't missing questions, but I know for me, like when I'm looking at chat, like I miss questions all the time. So if we miss it, like you can highlight it, you can like, but if you don't spam it like 6 times, but if you like post it again too.
Don't get yourself banned.
Yeah.
Spamming it.
Yeah.
Ray,
we do still have some questions. I know we are coming up on that 1 hour mark, but are we okay to just keep going with some of these other questions?
Yeah, I'm definitely fine to stick around. We are going to play Among Us after this, so for newbies who want to play Among Us, or even old bees who want to play Among Us, I think it's something that some people are excited about. But,
yes.
Yeah, but I don't have I think we're okay for a little while. Yeah.
Okay. Well, continuing on with the list of questions that I have here. This question is, what is the next level up the ladder after being in animal care?
Yeah, so we have a few different levels. We have assistant trainer, we have marine mammal trainer, and then we have senior marine mammal trainer. Then a step up from that would be like an assistant curator type position or assistant manager. A lot of these things are different depending on what facility you're at, but this is just where, this is kind of a generalization. So some kind of like manager for the department, and then like a curator. And then just, it keeps going up from there, whether it's like, director of animal care and like so on and so forth.
Okay. On my side, a question, especially during this time of the pandemic, we know Vanak was short staffed, but what are your guys' shifts like? Like, do you have days? And it relates to that, what is your worst shift time?
Worst shift time. I think that drastically differs based on like the individual person and what they prefer.
But for you, specifically,
like,
we talk about KP
for
today.
me, okay. For me, my very least shift is the closing shift. It's like a 9 to 5 shift. Like, I would way rather start early, be done early, than start a little bit later and have to stick around until 5, especially because usually like all the stuff is pretty much done at that point. And you're kind of just like just doing records and doing like the kind of like logistical stuff that's nobody likes to do, sending out the end of day reports and sending out any emails, like all of that like desk job stuff that I despise is kind of a bigger part of the end of the day. So I think that's why I don't like that shift. But some people like to sleep in, so
yes, absolutely. I'm guilty as charged. But I mean,
I do too, but I'd rather like I don't
your day
know.
over and done with, and actually have the rest of the day.
Yeah, exactly.
No, that's thank you for that question. Ray, on your side, because Ray seems she's got a lot of questions. Guys, on YouTube, if you want more questions, we're asking KP about her day as a caregiver.
Yeah, I'm posting KP's Discord invite link on your YouTube right now for anyone who wants to ask more questions in the animal chat in the wino community. So that's there. And continuing on with the list of questions I have here. The question is, do you adjust the calorie intake for the otters in colder weather? Or do you need more food to maintain body temp in the winter?
Yeah. This is a great question. Yes. So, in general, otters do very, very well in colder weather, and oftentimes, like the air temperature has to really change drastically. Like the water temperature is usually our water sits ambient to the ocean temperature, which is usually cold, pretty much year round. But bigger swings can affect the otters, absolutely. So for all the animals, if it's colder out and the animals are acting hungry, looking like they could take a little more food, then we always do that. But a lot of this, this is part of the job is reading the animals. I think it's like the most important part of the job is learning to read the animals. And so, you can look at an animal and go, okay, this animal isn't that hungry. Like, even though I had this diet set aside for them today, I'm just not going to give it to them because they clearly don't need it, like based on their behavior. And the opposite can be true too. Okay, I prepared this amount of food, but this animal looks like they want more. So we've got more. I'm going to give them more. We always have extra food for that reason. That we can easily give to the animals if they need more. But yeah, it absolutely. I mean, you can see that even in the wintertime, we're giving them ice because they do err on the side of being a little bit too hot. They have a metabolism that's like 2 to 3 times that of a similar sized land mammal. So I like to call them little fur covered furnaces. They make an excessive amount of heat.
Yes.
So it's much more likely that they overheat than they get too cold. But we are mindful of that. I mean, even if we do like procedures, like Hardy had his regular physical recently, we had bags of like Ziploc bags full of ice that we literally pack around them during that time because they can absolutely overheat very easily. But,
oh, wow. This is a question that I've actually been wanting to ask for a while, and one of our users, Maddie, is asking, what is that orange pinkish food that you feed the otters?
Yeah, so we've recently made a change with our clams. So there is still the normal types of clams. However, the normal surf clams that we've been getting, for whatever reason, I don't remember the reason or don't actually know 100%, but basically there's a huge shortage of it this year, to the point where like we're talking like 3 to 5 times as much money to get the same amount of surf clams for them, which is the normal part of their diet. But there are other types of clams that are much more readily available. And so we are now feeding about half and half of the surf clams, which are the super duper extra expensive, crazy, lack of those right now. And then propeller clams, which are a little bit easier to find. And I don't know why the propeller clams are crazy pink in color and like a little bit funky looking. But it's just a different type of clam. It has about the same nutritional value, and is just a lot more readily available. So therefore, not quite as expensive, which is, something we're always taking into account with these guys. So that's what's weird and pink right now.
Yeah. It looks so very colorful. I was thinking maybe it's some sort of salmon. They're feeding the otters salmon now. And
I wish our We don't. We actually have salmon right now that we're using for a different research project, not with the sea otters, with the sea lions. And I've been wanting to give them some, but it's got so many bones in it, and our vet really likes us to avoid like big bone stuff like that. Just it's a little bit easier on their little tummies if we don't give them a bunch of stuff like that. So we've talked about it. I want to, but
Okay. On your side, Reiha?
Yeah, so this question was in relation to when Christy was on screen and you were talking about it. Someone had asked if you think Katmai remembers her.
oh yeah. So this is an interesting question because when you talk about remembers her, like to me, that suggests like she goes, "Oh my god, it's Christy. We used to hang out." Like I don't think that's what's going on in Katmai's head. I do think she recognizes that this is a person that knows how to work with otters. So she recognizes, like Katmai recognizes, okay, like if I brought out a brand new trainer to work with Katmai, I can almost guarantee you Katmai would get bored very quickly, and Katmai would like probably start to just like mess around and like have better things to do. But I didn't see any of that with Christy because Katmai Christy knows how to work with Katmai. Katmai knows, oh, this lady, this is the criteria that this lady upholds. Whether or not she like thinks through that in her head or just just knows it based on like body language is hard to say. But no, I don't think Katmai's like, "Mom's here," I
Yes.
don't really think
I
that,
think it's just
that's
a
how.
familiar face, like, oh, I know this person.
Yeah, like she definitely knows, like based on the body language, like okay, that's this person. This person definitely is is somebody that knows how to work with me, and that I can definitely like I should definitely listen to because
Yes.
she knows what's up, kind of a thing. So
Okay.
yeah.
I see. I was just going to say here. Okay. On my side, we'll round it off with 2 questions, one from my side and that, and then we got a little poll to reveal from one
Ooh.
that was conducted on the MMRC chat. But Tessa asks, which animal worked, or basically, which animal did you work first in your life with? What was the first animal you worked with? Sorry, if I can.
Okay. Yeah, no, it's a good question. It's just I guess I kind of have to like go back a little bit. So I actually worked with birds of prey before
Raptors.
I ever moved to Vancouver, and it's like I miss birds of prey. So I used to work with eagles and hawks and falcons and turkey vultures, and yeah, and I miss it. I've explored opportunities that might bring birds of prey back into my life because it was super duper fun. It was for a rehab facility, and then I worked mostly with the educational birds, which were the birds that were deemed non-releasable, that couldn't go back out into the wild. And so we did like outreach programs, which, as you know, outreach super important to me. I think this is kind of where it started for me, was with the birds, teaching people about them, and was kind of where I developed my passion for talking with people in addition to animals. So yeah, I think that's probably the first animal. If you're talking about marine mammals, beluga whales is the first marine mammal that I ever worked with.
Okay.
And they're amazing.
Oh, that's so cute. Ray, got the last question for us from this side?
Let me see. Well, there's a few more. Some we already had answered earlier.
I think somebody. This isn't not really on topic, but somebody asked like, well, it is actually. This is on topic a lot. So Insomniacs wanted to know, how often do you do water changes? And I'll assume based on the way you phrase that question that you actually know a bit about water quality, because nobody says water changes usually, unless they know like something about it. So we right now, with the filtration and everything that we have on the otter pools, I think we drop and power wash them once a week each pool, which is nice. It's actually decreased because we've got some some new filters on these pools that are doing a really awesome job. Maybe you've noticed that the algae isn't growing quite as fast as it used to. So
Oh, okay.
that's really great. But yeah, so typically on the otter pools, once a week they're getting full water changes. However, those pools circulate. They probably, like, in a single day, I'm guessing the water probably changes over like 2 to 3 times, maybe even more than that. I'd have to check on that. So yeah, so even when we're not fully dropping the pools are always circulating water, and new water is always coming in and going through the filtration and then coming back cleaner than it was. Yada yada.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And the poop too, like somebody's asking about the poop. Like
yes.
the poop does not all sink to the bottom. The poop actually, that's what the skimmers are for. So especially otter poop, you guys have probably noticed, like it floats usually, so it gets skimmed off, which goes to our filters. Then the water gets filtered, like, so all the poop comes out and gets stuck in our filters, and our engineers have to deal with that. And then the water comes back into the pool nice and clean. So it's not just like, even if we didn't do a water change for like 3 weeks, it's not like there'd be 3 weeks of poop sitting on the bottom. That's not really the way that the pools work. They're constantly being cleaned. It's just that, like, the algae and stuff builds up after certain periods of time.
Yes, as you can imagine. So, Ray, I know you had one last question because we jumped over to that, so we'll take that one. What was the question you were about to ask?
Well, going back, there is still a few more, but I mean, we're kind of really going over time here.
Mhm.
But someone said, how much time do the trainers spend prepping food?
So in the morning, like the entirety of our fish house activities in the morning, which includes, like, prepping each individual animal's diet for each individual session that we do with them, as well as cleaning up afterwards, because we do have to, top to bottom, like ceiling to floor, clean the fish house after we're done. Takes about 3 hours.
3 hours.
And then, yeah, 3 hours, and then there might be stuff like that we have to do later in the afternoon and stuff like that. But yeah, it takes about 3 hours, and we're often doing other things at the same time, so it's not really like, we just do fish prep and then we go, like, this is like, as a trainer, you get so good at multitasking, I can't even tell you. So, like, I can do like 17 things at the same time and like really hurry up the process and be super efficient. And so we might send one person to go do something else, and, like, 2 people are going to do this and then swing back and do this. I mean, it's a whole working thing that, that we work out as how we use our time as efficiently as possible.
Oh, okay. Well, there's interesting stuff to know about that as well. Okay, from our side, just to let everyone know, thank you, KP, for joining us for this our Monday creature feature with yourself and Reiha. Folks, in my description, there is the Discord links and her Twitch. So after the show's ended, please go and watch her on Twitch. They'll be playing Among Us, which is the best game ever to watch. Friendships get lost. And also join the Discord channels. If you have questions, you can post it there. And obviously, it's something that you accumulate in advance. I know Ray has a lot of questions. So if you want to go see what those questions get answered, if Ray's going to carry on asking on that side, jump over to that side. But before we completely end off, let's see the poll results. So the poll was conducted on an MMRC channel. Also a description in the link below. In terms of what team are you on, which was done by Reiha, and we've got the results here. If I can bring it up, which you'll move over. So, geez, there's a lot of people that voted for something. So, this was the favorite team. So we have Team Paws, Team Flippers, Team Snoots, and obviously Team Whiskers. There's also Team Joey, for those that doesn't decide, Team Tail, and Team Ears. And 42% just were Team Joey, which that's my team. They're like everything Team Joey. And then the second place, which is also my favorite, was Team Paws, because I think that's what makes the otters the cutest out of all of them. And then in third place was his actual, what we like to call the whisk stash, or the whisker stash. His little whiskers.
He does have very, very iconic whiskers, and that one eyebrow whisker that sticks
Yes.
out like an old man's like eyebrow. Yeah.
Yes, that's how I've actually noticed that since you've said it. Now I immediately know who Joey is because it's so
Yeah.
long and pronounced. So that's if when Joey gets older, I don't know if he's going to lose it, but that one whisker, I'm like, that's Joey. That's Joey.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
That's awesome.
there's the pour result. As mentioned, KP will be streaming right after this. So please, in the description below, go follow her on Twitch and support the Discord channels and give her a follow today. And thank you, KP, so much for joining us. And thank you to all the community for joining us. And we'll be ending off the stream there.
Yeah, thanks so much for hosting, JJ.
No, pleasure.